People who've used a bar's safe word drink to get out of a bad situation, what happened? Had a creeper at a hotel bar who wouldn't leave me alone despite my best efforts to ignore him. I even asked him politely and not so politely to leave me alone. He actually kept trying to touch me and told me that I was going to go to his room with him. He had a strange, angry edge too. So I gave the bartender a help me look and said to him something like, "I need to talk to you about that thing with my tab, remember?" And asked if I could do it when the bar closed, which was like 5 minutes later. He looked at me and said, "Give me a minute," and made a phone call and then said, "So they can help you at the front desk." Meanwhile, Creeper is literally not leaving me alone and is still trying to actually hang on to me and keeps talking. So I start to leave and Creeper is trying to kiss me and pull me close, but I tell him I have business at the front desk and walk up to the desk. There are about 3 employees there and I said, "The bartender said you could help me with my tab." And one of the employees says, "Oh, I need you to come here with me to fix that." And she says to the guy, "You need to stay here, this is personal business." The employee, a woman, and I start to walk away, and of course the creeper followed us. She actually walked me to a staff elevator and he tried to get on with us. She told him, "Get out of here and leave us alone." As a male hotel employee came up to him just then and the elevator door shut. The employee walked me literally to my room door and stayed until I had it locked on the other side. I've had, and still occasionally do have, guys hit on me, but never anything like this before. I actually wrote a long email to the hotel corporate office and the actual hotel about the bartender and 2 employees. Because they helped me in what I would say was above and beyond. The guy really frightened me. I've been as brand loyal as possible to that hotel chain ever since. Another time, I was in a bar in the States. I'd been a regular here for a little bit, and I knew the bar staff. A new guy comes in and starts hitting on the bartender. At first, he just seems to play along with it, so I ignore it. It's not my business. Time goes by and he starts getting more and more aggressive on hints at her. He wants her number, but she's giving him excuses like, "Oh, my phone is broke right now," and eventually she says, "Look, enough, no." At this point, I'm paying attention, and he says she's just shy and she knows she would like it. She gets upset and she asks him to leave. I tell him he should leave. He ignores me and is still trying to smooth things over with her. Manager comes over, who is also a woman, and tells him he needs to leave. I tell him he needs to leave now. By this point, there was a group of 3 construction guys who had gotten up and come over to the bar, and he was told he needs to pay and leave right now, or we, the guys, will take care of him ourselves. At this point, he decides to pay and leave. The manager gave us all a round of free drinks. The guy came in again the next day when the owner was there. The owner called the police and trespassed him. Frick yes, construction guys. This is a kind of non-violent vigilante justice I think we can all get behind, right? Not a safe word per se, but my mum and friend went to a bar and a guy mugged her friend outside. She entered with her purse messed up and holding a shoe, and their male friend called over to the owner. He called out something like, "Woman down," and a bunch of men stood and went outside to search for this guy. Turns out a few years prior, a woman there was a victim of the unspeakable act. After that, the owner established a code phrase with the regulars for if a friend gets attacked. The place looks like a dive bar at first glance, but the owner was a serious gentleman and didn't even allow cursing in there. All I can picture is a bunch of drunk barflies pouring out of a bar ready to do battle, like some wacky version of that first scene in Gangs of New York. Dive patrons, assemble! Something opposite happened to me. This strange, much older guy wouldn't stop talking to me. I was in my mid-20s. I was shy, so I tried to act polite toward him, but I was visibly upset. A female bartender came up and asked if this guy was bothering me. I nervously chuckled, "Yeah, kinda," and gave her a look. The bartender laughed and said, "Leave the girl alone," or something similar to him in a joking voice, then walked away. The man said I was rude and walked away, only to come back and bother me a few more times. A couple of days later, a friend who frequents that bar said the bartender told him my story. She says I hurt the older guy's feelings and the bartender didn't appreciate it because he's kinda kooky, but irregular and means no harm. I don't go to that bar anymore. Had a bar call 911 once after they bounced a guy who was creeping out a woman. He stood outside the bar and flat out said he was waiting for her until she came out, which he did. He started following her and told people that they were together. I literally had to stand with this moron while this poor girl and her friends got into the car, and the absolute D-bag tried to stand really close so he could get the address. I told the driver her address, but gave the address of the jail, which most taxis know, and he seemed to get the hint. Guy tried to complain that we had unlawfully detained him just so he couldn't get the girl's number and address. I mean, yeah, that's basically what we did. Move along. I've actually been used to escape by a random before. Was at a local bar with a bunch of friends, and out of nowhere, a girl walks over, sits on my lap, and between teeth, clenched smile just said, "Pretend to know me." I laughed and loudly said, "Hey you, where did you wander off to?" Thankfully, my friends picked up on it because inside of 10 seconds, a few of my female friends were chatting with her and standing between her and the guy she'd fled. I asked her after what about me made her know I was a safe person to turn to, and she said, "Because you're here with a bunch of women. Total honesty. I thought you were gay." Haha. I'm a bouncer in a nightclub. No drink safe words, but we actively keep an eye out for situations which don't look above the radar. If a girl's leaving with a guy and she looks too intoxicated to stand, I'll take her aside and ask what his name is and how she knows him. If she seems to have had something slipped in her drink, I'll call the police. If she's scared or needs help getting away from a bad situation, I'll call her a cab and walk her to it. I'll also say to the bloke that I need to see some ID because his entry stamp isn't the right one. As soon as I see it, I'll take a photo, pass it on to the police, and ban him for life from our club. We've built up a reputation as the safest nightclub in our area, which draws both crowds, especially girls. It's massively helped our business being so focused on safety. In 2012, I was at an undressed beach in Toronto. A random 60-year-old man approached me. At the time, I was a shy 18-year-old, and he simply wouldn't leave. He talked on and on about how I could come live with him at his house and be his girlfriend, all the while not letting me get a word in edgewise. To escape this situation, I decided to call the day a loss and leave, even though I'd only just arrived. As I walked back to the ferry, he emerged from the trees and followed me back to the mainland. He was still planning out our lives together and offered to buy us lunch at a local bar chain. Not wanting to lure the scary guy back to my apartment, I agreed in the hopes of stalling and figuring out a plan. We sat down at a table by the door and I said I had to go to the bathroom. And as I passed the bar, I gave the bartender, a 20-something female, the 411 on this creepy guy situation. I asked if there was a back door somewhere I could slip out of and leave without him noticing. She replied that there was one through the kitchen, but it was for staff only and she couldn't help me. I felt so betrayed that another female wouldn't intervene at all and cried a little bit in the bathroom. I was so young, new to the city and genuinely scared. I didn't even have a phone back then, I was so broke. When I got back to the table, the food came. I ate 2 bites, and when he called for the check as he waited for the bill, I said, "Well, this was," and ran into the street. But I still took some crazy side treks before getting on the subway. That sounds awful. The bartender definitely should have helped somehow, or at the very least got the manager involved if she couldn't handle it. I had to use it when on a date off Tinder. We met up and he'd already got me a drink, just sitting there, a shot of something clear, and then he said to me that I should do it. Then he would take me somewhere better for more fun. I wasn't comfortable, so I excused myself to the bathroom and saw a poster that said to ask for Angela if you're uncomfortable. Went to the bar and asked for Angela, and immediately this guy was playing along saying, "Oh yeah, she's working in the kitchen tonight." And he got me a taxi and walked me to the back door and into the taxi to make sure I got there without any hassle. Never saw the guy again. Are you saying that when you arrived at the bar, he had already ordered you a drink and it was there waiting for you? Yikes. I went out on my own one night and was having a few drinks at a local pub. I just moved to the area, so I didn't really know anyone. A guy sat down next to me and was chatting. At first, this was just casual, but he eventually became really tipsy and handsy. Then the guy actually kissed me just out of the blue, and I told him I was not okay with it. He said I was leading him on, which was not the case at all. He got angry and stormed off to the washroom. I was feeling really uncomfortable and unsafe. I didn't know my new neighborhood yet. The bartender saw that I was feeling off right away. He didn't even know me but could tell. He asked if I wanted to be shown out the back door and if they could put me in a cab home so that I could go without the guy following me. They even paid and apologized that I felt unsafe in their bar. I was totally blown away, and I would totally go back there and feel completely taken care of. Heck yes, bar manager. If you can't confront the guy, this is an excellent way to deal with the situation. I think most clients would even be glad at the option without the taxi fare paid for, but that's a great gesture. This is a relatively new thing, but some of us girls have been doing some form of it for a long time. Back when I was a bartender, I noticed a girl stumble into the pool table. She was crying and clearly very intoxicated. I went over to ask if she was okay, and some guy I hadn't seen her with all night jumps up and says, "I'm her boyfriend. I've got her." No, the frick you do not. We got her to calm down and give us her phone to call her roommate so someone safe could take her home. It sucks that it's necessary, but I'll always love my boss from that bar because he threw that creep out, physically. We saw her again. She didn't have a boyfriend or remember that night. Working as a bartender and bouncer for the past couple of years, I usually just try to watch for body language of people that are in the bar. If it looks like someone needs a quick escape, I'll approach and pretend I'm an old friend that hasn't seen them in a while. If they don't actually need help, I can excuse myself by saying they look like a friend. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out Easy Mode, also linked below, and subscribe.